welcome to the Best Gay Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Trevor Hoppe. Today's episode is about mentorship. For queer people, family is often chosen, not inherited. When it comes to those key life lessons like learning about sex, relationships, or kink, we really can't rely on dear old mom and dad for those lessons. We kind of have to chart our own course. And today's guest, Master Tebias Perry, knows that all too well. After growing up in a small central Georgia town, he later joined the military and ultimately found the leather community. And he has never looked back. With his new book, Leather Mentorship, Master Tebias is showing a new generation the power and value of mentorship. And spoiler alert, mentorship isn't about control. It's actually about a deep form of care and even love. And it might just be the thing that saves us. Let's listen in. Master Tebias Perry, welcome to the Best Gay Sex Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I've heard a lot about you, and I'm here in the flesh, baby. I'm here in the flesh.
We are so excited to have you. Daddy Rod, a previous guest, gave your highest praise and recommended you come on. So I'm really thrilled to have the chance to talk to you about your new book and all the activism and work you've been doing in the leather community. But before we get to today, I just want to help listeners kind of understand you and a little bit about your story. What was it like growing up in Georgia?
We didn't know what anything was other than our little small bubble. I was raised in a very small town called Reynolds, Georgia. Maybe 1,500 people or less. White people lived on one side of the tracks. Black people lived on the other side of the tracks. And I am from a middle class family that were entrepreneurs. So it felt kind of isolated. Like we knew that Atlanta was an hour away, but we never had any interest on going because everything we needed was right there. But I didn't know that this big world existed until I got out of Reynolds, Georgia.
Yeah. What caused you to leave Reynolds?
As I became older and more interested in different things, I saw the world differently from my television, and I wanted to do a lot of things. I mean, multiple things. I wanted to dance, but I didn't find that because I have such a strong religious background, and my mom never really technically wanted me to dance. She wanted me to go to college. She wanted me to do the military, and that was what I did. But I still feel that shit. It's like I'm feeling it welling up in me now. Like I should have been dancing for Alvin Ailey, in which I wanted. But yeah, I made it. I think I did pretty well.
So when you say dance, you mean like professionally dance. I was picturing like boogieing at the club or something, but you mean like literally you wanted to dance.
I wanted to dance. It started with Gregory Haynes. And I just followed all these dancers like tap dance and jazz and all of this. And then I started looking at a lot of pictures and videos of like ballet. And I was like, I really think I want to do that because I was tall, I was slender, and I never really had the gay thing in my mind until I started finding interest in that. And then I found more interest looking at myself as I think I may be attracted to men. So I think, in the latter parts of my teens, guys, before I graduated high school.
You started to realize that you were attracted to guys at the end of high school. Did you have any early kind of forays into messing around with guys?
Just locker room stuff like you just compare and you look down, and that was pretty much it. But nothing moving like to the point where we're touching and feeling and all this.
What were your first like adventures into sexuality like?
Two different things now. You talk about with women or with guys.
I mean, generally, yeah. So if women was the starting point, what was that like?
It really stemmed from church. So my only interest in sex was the older neighbor who used to babysit us, who showed me what it looked like inside. And I really found interest in that, really found interest in it. And that was the thing to do being from a small town. It was you guys go with girls, girls go with guys, and that was the way it was supposed to go. So I did find interest in that. moved on to college, dated Miss Fort Valley State, and then after that was hell over heels from there when I got in the military. So
The military was your gateway drug, huh?
that was my gateway drug for really, really opening who I was because essentially I'm 21, 22 years old. I'm on my own. I'm making my own money. I'm in my own place. And yeah, I started to explore a little bit more. Yeah.
How did you know what to do? Like what inspired you sexually? Did you learn from pornography or like magazines or what were the kind of touchstones in your life at that point?
VHS tapes. I started
Right.
out with the VHS tapes, and then I wanted to go a little bit more risque. So I found interest in bookstore culture, which a lot of us do. I mean, we all start out with the seediness of sexuality. Like, what the fuck can I get away with? What is the most deviant thing that I could possibly do? So it started out more like the VHS, the masturbation, mutual masturbations. And then I started with a deeper level of exploring more with older guys because I've always had an affinity for older, more masculine guys. And back in the day, it used to be whoever has the biggest dick is going to top or whatever. So I ended up on this end of the spectrum. So older guys really taught me a lot more about myself than people that were my age. So they taught me about leather, they taught me about fetish and other stuff. And it was just so different back then. We didn't have easily accessibility to the internet. This was Craigslist and the chat lines and other this stuff.
Loved Craigslist.
The
Yeah.
chat line, can you believe it? So yeah, the bookstores, I found interest in those and it was fun. It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. When did you first start to think that leather excited you?
It's really a combination trip between the discipline that I had in the military versus the seediest and most gutter shit that I've ever wanted to do. It was really a mixture in between that. And once I decided and got a divorce because I was in the military and married, is that I got to get a divorce in order to do what the fuck I want to do because I don't want to bring someone into this experience with me not being truthful with who I am. So, true fucking story. I was in the gym. I had just gotten back from Desert Storm. My best friend Alan was saying, "Oh my God, you're so huge. Look at your muscles." All of us have this summer of puberty where we just grow up and we become men like overnight. So I came back from Desert Storm, was working out, shaved my head, and was at the gym. This older white guy. And I said, "Can I get a spot? Can I get a spot?" The traditional spot in the gym. He's standing over me. I'm on the bench and
Hmm.
I can see everything looking up, looking up. So that was really my first real encounter with someone who just so happened to have been a kinkster and he showed
Huh.
me everything. It started from just very light cruising, weeks and months, if not 2 years of this cruising and flirting in the gym, mutual masturbation. And long story short, I got a divorce and he and I started dating. And he taught me everything I knew at my first duty station. So it was, I don't know if it was love, but it was more me exploring. And he taught me all that I needed to know about leather. And that was, God, that was 96, 97.
Some people hear the term leather and they picture the material. And obviously, it means a lot more to you than just cowhide. What does leather represent to you?
Well, when I first came into it, it was all about the sex. It was about only just the conquer, between whipping, flogging, all of the above. But it was more or less about the sex first. And then as I became matured, as my mentor says, as I became matured in leather and in my kinks, I found a deeper appreciation for what came before us, like the Marsha P. Johnsons and the leather community were radical activists who really had a cause and a purpose behind the reason of our visibility, not only as gay folks, but leather folks as well. And all of them were on this movement. And I just found more interest. And I think age had something to do with that. I was getting older. I was in the world in my military career and learning more about the community as a whole. So learning more responsibility gave me more responsibility into what I wanted to be, who I was representing, and what I was representing and where I wanted to go with that. So my mentors that I took on along the way kind of guided me where I wanted to go. Did I want it to be a hardcore kinkster, or did I want to be an activist, someone who was an educator, a creator of content, and developing people who were coming behind me? So I became more into an activist on where I am now, an educator.
I know your work right now especially deals a lot in the topic of mentorship when it comes to leather. What lessons did you learn from your first mentors in the leather community?
I will say this, and this is true fucking story. Now, after the first guy that I saw his balls in the gym and we dated, there were some serious pitfalls that I fell into as far as sexual deviancy. Not me, but people in the community that would prey on younger guys, prey on black guys. I was a flip flopper for a little bit between top and bottom, between verse. And then for some reason, I just had a bad taste in my mouth about sex until I got a grip on who I was and what I liked singularly, not with everybody else and finding a desire and pleasing people based on their sexual need, but my own. And then I truly found myself in that. But with mentorship, the pitfalls that I fell into, I didn't want others that were in my grasp to experience what I experienced if I know that I could give them something for them to avoid that. So I wanted to pass on what I had learned, and then I wanted it to be more structured. So I started journaling. And every time I would public speak, one of my mentors said, "Oh my God, this kid got a fucking book in him. He has a book in him," and I can still hear them saying that. And then it went on to me competing for different leather titles and leather contests, and I became more visible, more well known, which is an honor. It's an honor, and that's how mentorship really shaped and helped me find out what my strengths were and how to use my weaknesses for my strengths. So yeah, that's how it came about.
You mentioned being a black gay man in those spaces, and you've written a lot about that. What was that like um, bringing your whole self to that community?
So that's something that I had to learn also through trial and error as well. Because I've heard white leathermen say to other white men, white leathermen and women, that black people do not look good in leather.
Mm.
Black men in dreads do not look good in leather. So in order to flex what I know, turn that anger into more. So I formed a class called People of Color Navigating White Dominated Spaces. This is
Wow.
one of the first classes that I taught, and it really showed me that we're more alike than we are apart.
What was your first IML like?
That's a good question. Actually, my first IML I did with two of my best friends, Leon and Sean, and we knew nothing about the magnitude of IML. Queen friend, May, I wanted something like a kilt, and there are pictures of me on my Facebook. And this thing it was with what's the drag queen used the glue, like the glue gun, glue me a kilt together. And when you put it on, oh my God, my chest and my arms were looking good. And as we were going to the Onyx party back then, the kilt was literally falling apart piece by piece. I mean, like it was in like slats, the little slats like this long. And it was like each slat was falling apart. But I learned so much about how, we think that because we're younger, we're invincible, everyone wants us. And I was just the laughing stock of all of it. I
Oh,
really was. I really was. Looking back now, because this thing was falling apart, and it was hilarious. But my first IML, like 2005, 2006. it was a mess. A lot of good sex, but horrible experience with my wardrobe. Horrible.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Big time. Big time. Big time.
What do you think? Why do people travel from far and wide to come to leather events? Because this is IML is one of them, but there are many leather events around the world even. What do people make the pilgrimage for?
People come for various reasons, Trev. They come for sex. They come for the brotherhood. They come for the camaraderie. They come for friendships. They come for the debauchery of it all. So, I mean, for me, it's become more purposeful because now that someone who I mentored is currently IML, someone who I mentor now is
That's cool.
IML, and that is for me looking outside into myself, some things and qualities and fixings that you poured into one person, and to see that work come out into full fruition is a powerful fucking thing. And I mean, it's really difficult to explain because I mean, I'm such a humble person, and to look at that from the outside in, it's like is a huge fucking thing to do. It's and to be a part of. Is to be a part of something that you see at one point and now it's here. And they're representing leather on a global scale. So it's major for me. It's a big.
What was that feeling like when they became IML?
I was on the front row, right behind the judges, and pretty much the staff. I know the staff because I'm all of us are brothers and friends and all this shit. And when Jamal won, it was just, and I jumped up like I was at my grandmama's church, and it was a spiritual moment for me. And for them, he's like shocked and couldn't move, and all of my friends around me are trying to run and grab me, like, oh my God, we did it. And it takes a team to make sure that they're polished, their boots, and they understand the bigger picture. And when they get it, Trev, they just get it. It's like the little ducklings in the lake. The mother teaches them how to swim, and you push them out there, and it's just so liberating. And it's magic.
Wonder if there are similar kinds of structures in the leather world as like maybe in like the house scene where there are kind of like familial relationships like a drag mom. I assume there's probably similar kind of relationships in the leather world of parenting and nurturing. You mentioned mentorship, but it sounds like it's even beyond mentorship.
It is similar because I'm a huge fan of Pose. All of us have watched Pose and seen the houses, but I also know some of the house members here in Atlanta, and it is sort of similar. You take in kids under your wings, and you bring them into a space where they're safe, and you teach them everything that you know and what was poured into you. So I think that there is a lot of similarity with leather mentoring as well as the ballroom scene. So I think a lot of ways that it is a lot of similarities there.
That's great because often we have to rely on our chosen family as queer people because our family, biological family, is not always there for us. Do you find kind of that familial bonding in that space? Is that something you do you have a close relationship with your biological family? How do you think that factors into your like notion of family?
And I've mentioned this publicly too, and I'm not ashamed to say it, that I unfortunately, after my mom's death and even before that, I've never really had a relationship with one of my siblings. And even after my mom passed, honestly, I haven't really talked to them since that point. And that's been since 2016. And I have friends that I've known for 35 years that I talk to every single day. So, my chosen family and family is what you make it. And it goes back to, blood is thicker than water. And I just really don't fuck with that because it's so foreign to me now as an adult and as someone who's almost 60 years old that I know friends better than I know my family. So I have a close relationship with my family, but with my sibling, I don't, unfortunately. Now that I've found myself and who I am.
The young people are very excited to get into kink and leather, but they struggle to find the entry point that's safe and welcoming. What tips would you have for young people to kind of venture out?
The first thing is don't look for that validation. The second thing is get behind someone that you can trust. And number three, always look for safe experiences. That is what's most important because that groundwork will keep you at a level where you are socially aware of who you're around at all times. So make sure you're not looking for any validation. Get behind someone who know what the fuck they're talking about and that you trust and that you trust and always get consent. Always get consent to touch, to feel, to explore, and make sure that it's fun and it doesn't hurt. Well, it hurts at first, but make sure it doesn't hurt permanently. So those three things. I don't want to give so much legwork on what people need to do because that's not really my ministry. I really am all about all of us exploring and finding what makes us tick and what makes us the best version of ourselves.
I'm curious. I know that changes over our life course. Some of it is about exploring, and some of it changes over time. How do you feel like your desires have changed over time?
Desires for sex specifically?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I want it. I want it. I want it as often, always open, but I think I'm still exploring a lot, if not more so that I've always done. I'm a creature of habit where I like what I like and I don't apologize for it. And it's if it's a flip flop moment, it's a flip flop moment, which happens on Christmas. Those are the three times when I'm going three times that you know what I'm talking about. Those are the
Uh-huh.
three times of the year when I want to be treated like that. But every other time I want to do the most sickest, safest, wildest, and I have a huge closet and a lot of shit in my arsenal. So that's what I'll say.
I am not in the leather community, but I am attracted to the sexuality of it all, of course. And part of the reason I find, I guess, just speaking from my own self, I'm a little intimidated sometimes by like the long list of things that guys are into or not into. Do you think it's best to find someone when you're starting out that aligns perfectly with what you're into, or that there are big gaps?
I would not focus on just one person in your exploration. You have to try out many different cars to know which one you want to drive. I like SUVs, but I like sports cars as well. I like pickup trucks, but I like motorcycles as well. I mean, you have to make sure that you specifically explore and learn what you enjoy because no one is going to give you everything you need. And if you're in this box, all of us need to get out and explore and find what is specifically and what is useful.
A lot of guys are centered on the apps, Grinder, Scruff, etc. Do you think you can find meaningful sexual connection there?
God, yeah, I think that is exactly, I'm not going to say it is the only point, but I think it is a good point as long as you're being safe about that. Because, with so much over sexual stimulation come risk of all types. So I think it's a good way to start as long as you make sure you know what you're getting into and explore. I've always said that, and I've said it publicly as well. Don't hinder yourself because just when you stop trying to learn more, you're 60 years old and you wake up and certain things are not working like they used to. And you got this gray hair on the top and the bottom, and it's harder to go out on the hunt. So I would say explore, explore, explore. There's this thing, I used to be a member of Onyx, which is the largest leather organization in the world. And their motto is educate, empower, and explore. If everyone could learn that and practice that, the leather community would be a perfect template for everyone to start in, even heteros. I mean, to do that is everything. So I would tell everyone that's listening to you, that's following me, is to make sure you explore to know specifically, if not multiple things that you like and enjoy the best.
I just want to I want to kind of hone in on that because I think that's the sticking point for a lot of people is that they don't always know what is going to turn them on in the moment, and some things can be quite things some things you don't want to do with a stranger, like restraint, for example, is kind of a challenging idea to do that in a first time meetup. How do you know what turns you on?
Well, the stimulation is the true barometer for me, and I'm a voyeur. I'm really a voyeur. I know something turns me on when I don't want to take my eyes off of it, or I want to get into it. So I know that it could be eyes, it could be lips, it could be a big ass, it could be big legs, or it could be a big dick. So I know what turns me on because I've gone through the trial and the error of what works specifically for me. Not judging anyone else, but I know when I see it or when I hear it. So it just comes with experience, right? I mean, it's just, yeah. And I'm not saying go and explore with a random person that you haven't taken the time to get to know or that you don't trust, but all of us have done pickup play. All of us have met people on apps and had a absolutely wonderful time. So you're not really going to know things unless you really get out there and do some practicing.
Practice, practice, practice. That's what I always say. Absolutely.
It makes it perfect. Yeah.
Hopefully, yes, we're striving for perfection. Absolutely. If never getting there, but trying. You mentioned voyeurism. That has kind of a stigma attached to it. It's this thing that a lot of us enjoy. I think many men watch porn. So in some level, we're being voyeuristic in that way. But a recent guest kind of transformed my understanding of it by explaining kind of what it did for them. So I'm interested to hear again a little bit more from you on this topic. What do you get out of voyeurism?
I get an experience that I can replay in my mind for weeks, for months, for years. And God forbid if I write it in my journal, I get to really play it over and over and over. So I can sit back and watch a hardcore fucking of fisting. It gives me the opportunity to watch something, but then I'm physically not part of the experience. I don't know where it came from, but it turns me on so much where I can watch a fisting scene or a double fisting scene. And I think what it is it's the heroism in that I never thought was possible. Seeing two arms in a person just in sheer ecstasy. I can still hear the sounds like in my head now. And I can just get off on it like instantly. I know this is a bit much, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I think my
Please.
my favorite moments are first thing in the morning, close my eyes, and go into an experience at Claw or IML or MAL, watching a scene with two guys fisting one guy at the same time. And I could literally almost smell it and satisfy myself. So voyeurism is something that it keeps me safe in a lot of ways because I do love pickup play, don't get me wrong. But voyeurism for me, it works for me, the climax that I need and the experience. So voyeurism, it's everything. It's everything. I love it.
Yeah, honestly, it's one of those kind of, I guess you could say, a fetish that I hadn't thought a whole lot about until a conversation of the previous guest, where he really transformed my understanding and thinking about, for one, as you say, it can be safe, where you can watch a scene play out that you're maybe not ready to experience that, or even you don't want to be a part of physically, but you find erotic. So it can be a form of sex education. And I found that like kind of transformative in my understanding. I was like, oh yeah. And of course the erotic charge of it all is more obvious, I think, but the kind of is such a banal word about it, but the kind of, I don't know, learning aspect to it and appreciation and
Add to that, Trev, I've been, of course, my voyeurism looks different sometimes more so than everyone's. When I'm in a voyeuristic state, I love to take all of my clothes off and be tucked away in a corner somewhere. The people I'm looking at possibly can't see me, and I'm just going to town on myself. This is a one man fucking show that I just thoroughly enjoy, and I can replay it. I can have whatever in my hands or bound myself, put a gag in my mouth, and go to town on myself. And then I can replay it again and again. So, I mean, it's this whole thing. But I've also, to add to that, I've been invited into scenes from watching. But sometimes I'll bow out. No, I just want to sit and watch. You just enjoy yourself. So it goes both ways. It's sort of like pickup basketball. It's like, coach put me in, coach put me in, but sometimes I don't want to be put in.
Yeah, you're happy
But
on the bench.
it's major. It's one of my more perfected crafts.
I guess I wanted to also talk potentially about power play because or power exchange, I guess, would be the more like appropriate term in the leather community. What's your relationship to power exchange?
Exchange for me is I'm taking someone's power. They're loaning it to me and I choose to give it back or not. That's the negotiated part where if I have someone that's in service or collared or I own them as property or a slave, they're giving me their power and their trust. So that's synonymous to me. Power is trust. And they loan it to me and I choose to give it back to you where I have taught you some things and I give you back a bigger power. So sometimes I give up my power, my birthday or Christmas.
Yeah.
That's my only level of power that I want to give to others. So that's what power exchange is to me. And I mean, it's not something that I practice often because I do love pickup play. I do love anticipatory service. I like weekend service, but I've had boys, girls before, but that's just not something constant where I want to be in a dynamic MS or DS relationship constantly.
And I guess I'm just for people who are and my own edification, like the master in your name, does that so that does not necessarily reflect a commitment to a certain kind of play, or is it? I'm just curious.
Well, people get mastery in different ways. People get mastery honorifics from the service that they've done. The people that are in from their downline to their upline that recognizes their hard work and they bestow covers onto them, which are the meerkats. And I've earned three of those from different people in the community. And note that we, as people in the community who are influencers. I would never call myself a leader in the community in Atlanta. The community gets to bestow these honorifics onto us. And anyone who says, well, I'm a leader in the Charlotte leather community, they're not really a leader. They're self-appointed because this work that we do, it is really specific work. And it's not something of grandeur and self-seeking. It's work that the community has recognized, and we get these honorifics as sir, as daddy, as master from various people in the community. So that's how it's come about. But one of my mentors bestowed my master cap onto me. So I've been fairly a new master. So mastery can come in many different ways, from education to having people in service that recognize your work.
That's fascinating. I did not know that system of honorifics. Is it hierarchical? Like, is there a level above master? Like, I'm just really kind of think people might be curious to know.
Well, to me, leadership is not about you being in charge of anyone, but it's you being in charge of the love and care that you give for the people that you serve. I look at that. Even people call me a leader all the time, and I say, no, 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 no. I give servant leadership. I give servant leadership. I'm a servant of my community. And I have to pull it back. And it's a grounding thing because when you are in our leather journey, people call you Master Tebias. And, once upon a time they called me Sir Tobias. This is a honor that's bestowed to us, and it's not something that should be taken lightly. And it's not a lifestyle; it's a life. It really is a life that we give to the people that we serve, and that's just the way I look at it. I look at the community as people that I serve, and I teach, and I educate, and being called master is something that is it's a huge honor. and I take a real life responsibility in honoring the people that I serve.
I love that. I mean, it's beautiful. I literally, I did not know that system. So I really appreciate your explanation of it. I'm sure people listening will find it helpful as well.
Hierarchy, really. There's,
That makes more sense to me
I
now, the way you
mean,
explained it there.
yeah, a
Yeah.
sir, a daddy, a master. We're all servants, in one way or another.
Yeah. I love that. It's really beautiful. I want to talk about your book and mentorship and what did you want the book to do and how have you seen that play out on the ground?
It's been so many different things. It started out with one way. I wanted to, like I said earlier, I wanted mentorship to be something that was a succession plan to make sure people did not fall into the pitfalls that I fell into. So I wanted to put something together that was very subject matter specific, that you didn't have to read the whole 500-page book just to get the gist of what I was saying. So I started out with writing certain chapters of subject matters that I know I have proficiency in. And I wrote the chapters down and I just started talking about it. I just started talking about each subject that I knew about and that I had experience in. And I wrote on them until I felt that they were full enough with the information. I had the tools for someone else to use. What really taught me and what really made this book special is understanding the difference between a disagreement
Mm.
and disrespect, because that is a huge fucking difference. As I moved into leadership roles, I understood that more clear. We can disagree all day long, but when that disagreement turns into disrespect, I'm going to step away before I do something that I'll regret and you surely will regret. I've just, it's a mastery in learning the art of listening to understand, not listening to respond. And I found so much in writing this. And I couldn't have done it without having those tools from Master Bruce, from Master Lily, and other mentors that I look up to in the community. So all of them are wrapped up into all of these pages that are presented publicly now in Leather Mentorship.
How has the experience been with people receiving the book?
My friends were like, "Oh, we're gonna go on tour. We're gonna do a 5-city tour right after MAL in DC." We did DC, we did Baltimore, we did Philly, we did New York. After MAL, we sold all the books, all the t-shirts. It is a labor of love. Receiving the book everywhere I go, Trevor, someone is asking me something about chapter 4, about chapter 16, about the butterfly effect, about the forward that Vince Andrews wrote. And Vince Andrews is a good friend of mine. He has several bodies of work out there, and I think it's been received very well. I'm really shocked and I'm proud of it all at the same time. So it's emotional. I mean, it's emotional because leather mentorship being my baby, even me wearing a leather dress and gloves, it's a powerful thing because, the masculinity of the book says a lot with a leather man wearing a leather dress. So it's just all around powerful.
I noticed that on your Instagram. I was kind of perusing through, and you definitely play with gender a little bit. I think some people are challenged by the rigidity of kind of old guard masculinity in the leather scene. That seems to be changing. What do you see as the relationship between masculinity and the leather community? How do you make sense of that?
As long as you show up as yourself, in a dress, heels, or in the most Tom of Finland that you could wear. As long as you show up authentically as yourself, that's really all that matters. So as I've gotten older, my ideas of masculinity has changed, where now I can be in a 47-pound leather skirt and feel just as masculine as wearing a tight pair of ball crushing leather pants. So I look at masculinity as something that is inner more so than outward now. So I look at my comfort level of how I show up. As long as it's authentically myself, that's all that really matters. So I look more of the inward expression of myself than the outward expression. That's all that matters.
As a Black man, how does that shape your relationship to masculinity, particularly thinking in the leather community?
Religion, Trevor, has fucked us up. Religion has given us this scale of what masculinity looks like and what it shouldn't look like. Notice I didn't say what it doesn't look like, but what it should look like. And religion has given us this stand, put kink on top of that and layer the masculinity and femininity and all of that. So I would say do some soul searching and find yourself no matter what it looks like and just be free and have fun. Men wore dresses in the Bible before. So it changes up and down. You know, this new guard thing that people are doing now, as old as I am, I've embraced it. And in order for us to still capture the ear of the younger guard as someone who's rooted in old guard, we have to embrace that. Or, unfortunately, we will be left behind. I mean, the world looks different than 1997. So we have to embrace what's to come. Like we had to embrace what's to come, they have to embrace us, and we have to embrace them as well. So it's a give and take.
Yeah, change can be hard, obviously. I can only imagine the conversations happening within IML about all that must be spirited, I'm sure. But I wanted to make sure I got to the topic of the podcast, Best Gay Sex, and understand a little bit about what you think for you. What does it take to have the best gay sex?
The best gay sex. I would say make sure that you have the right kind of lube and make sure that you are working within your limits. That's the best advice I could give because I mean some people are conquerors when they know that the mountain that they want to climb, that mountain is too big for them. So lots of lube and know what your limits are. Know what your limits
I
are.
like it. Amen to that. Absolutely. When you look back at, I mean, obviously many experiences, what do you think the qualities for you are of those encounters that were like, you're like, man, that was the best?
Going back to a little bit of power exchange. Whenever I'm in those 3 times a year, those 3 times of the year, I do like to flip flop. And the most enjoyable part of that is for me to let go. But because of public scrutiny and us putting ourselves on the chopping block in a way to be socially responsible, I have to be cognizant of shit that I say. I still do. I do. So I bear that responsibility. But the best way for me to reach that level of vulnerability with that person, 3 times. And I feel so free whenever I'm experiencing that. And it has to, unfortunately or fortunately, come from the most masculine experience from the dom side of them to me that I can get. And it looks almost like I'm just being slutted out. It looks almost like I'm being slutted out because I'm in service in as a dom so much in play and in different scenes. Those 3 times means a lot to me. And when I want it, I fucking want it. And I want all of it. So I'm just saying what the best sex looks like for me is I want to be dominated.
Amen to that. Who can relate? With kind of role play scenarios, when you talked about being slutted out, right? Does it ever start to feel scripted? And if so, how do you like shake that?
I've never looked at leather and pickup play as role play. Though it with some people, I've heard it, I've seen it, that this is a role for them. This is authentically who I am. Like me going into a scene, it's part of sex and the words and the exchange of dialogue that we have. This is authentically that I found who this person really is. And this is exactly who I am. When I'm just consensually, or when I have my arm up to my elbow in your ass, this is authentically who I am. So I don't find my description as role play. I really, really don't. So the Dom sub, daddy boy, master slave dynamic, this is exactly who the fuck I am. It's nothing about the role play of it. Even my aftercare that I give after a scene, they're like, I'm fine, I'm fine. This is, and I'm bringing them down off of a ledge. This is the caring person that I am, or the sexual deviant that I am, the sadistic fucker that I am. This is authentically who I am behind these nerdy glasses. So I don't see any forms of that in what I do.
Yeah. No, that's really helpful. I appreciate that so much because people outside the community, I think that will help them understand what it's like to be a part of the community. That it's, for some people, maybe role play, but as you say, it's not necessarily that. It can be something else too. So I really appreciate that clarification. I always like to end with my favorite segment, which is called Sordid Lives and Untold Tales, or SLUT for short. What's the sluttiest thing you ever did?
Done was actually in Berlin at Laboratory.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Have you been?
I have not myself, but many of my friends have.
My God, it is literally a sea of slings and debauchery of men, and as many people as I could. And this just happened 5 years ago.
Nice.
I just went around randomly putting my dick in every single home. What was most liberating from it? Because, when you show up in these spaces, you don't know who's going to be attracted to you, if it's mutual or if it's not. But obviously, I was the pick of the litter for that night. But it was just so liberating just to, anyway, that was the sluttiest thing that I've ever done, was just put my guards down and fuck as many people as I could. Yeah. At the
Yeah, it's like
laboratory.
the opposite of the no loads refused bottom. You're like the no hole refused top. I love it.
Horse market. It's like horse
Yes,
market.
I've heard of the horse.
Take you
Well,
on.
yeah, if people I would be fascinated to go for real. It would be it just like sociologically I'd be very fascinated. If people want to learn more about you and your book, where can they find you online?
On my Instagram. And you can also find me on Facebook under J. Tebias Perry. Don't send me a friend request unless you inbox me first, because I will delete them. So no random friend requests. And you
Of
can
course,
also
yeah,
find me,
Instagram is good for that.
yeah, you can also find me under Bulge Features, International House of Bulge on Instagram.
Fabulous. Well, I hope I see you at IML. I am. It's
But I got to show you the ropes. I got to show you the ropes.
fabulous. I look forward to it.
Thank you so much for the body of work that you do for the community. And thank you so much for having me today. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you. I got to know your work and I'm obsessed. So I'm excited to see and follow your career. That's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening. Always grateful. And remember, if you're thinking, wouldn't it be great to talk to me about your sex life? Kind of hash out some issues that you've been facing? My services as a sex coach are designed to help you identify and overcome those obstacles that are standing between you and your best sex life. Find out more on my website, thebestgaysex.net. Till next time.